Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to a very special Cinderella Tournament 2025 preview here on my YouTube channel or at the end of the five-star Joshi show this week. I am your host, as always, Scott Edwards, and with me today to talk about this wonderful Cinderella Tournament is none other than String Six Splash. You may know him from the YouTube channel Red Belt Radio. Welcome to this wonderful preview. How are you today?
Hey, Mr. Edwards, I'm doing pretty well. This is a tournament that has a different feel in a few different ways and a lot of possibilities of who might actually progress. So hopefully we can figure something out. It's going to be a process, I think.
Yeah, famously, I am terrible at predicting this tournament, but I have fun doing it. And that's what matters. That's why we're here. That's why I like to have a guest do it with me each and every year. As you alluded to, I've had Trent do it with me in the past. I'm happy to have you join me today to do it because obviously you have your hand on the pulse of what Stardom is and what it's all about and where they're going. That being said, with the Cinderella tournament, I think we're both going to possibly look bad because, again, this is the most unpredictable tournament of the year. I'd love if one of us walk away right though, because then I can take credit either way because it's on my video. I'll be like, oh, I had him on, so he knew, you knew. If I'm right, then I'll be shocked. I'll be genuinely shocked. Last year I picked Hazuki so that Hanan would win. It worked. This year I'm picking someone different so that who I want to win wins. I will reveal that at the end of the show. It's like I have two winners. But before we get to that, I'd like you to let the people know where they can find you if they listen to the podcast version of the show or, of course, the YouTube version of this video.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks everyone for tuning into this. String Six Splash is the name of my channel. So I put out a series called Red Belt Radio. That's something you can find on YouTube. So if you just search either for String Six Splash, which is the word string, the number six, the word splash, or just search for Red Belt Radio, should be able to find it. And I'm trying to stay up to date. As you mentioned, the finger on the pulse. I'm trying to find the pulse. Stardom is very much alive and thriving. So the pulse is there. It's just about keeping up and staying up to date, because I think this is going to be one of the more hectic couple of months coming up, pretty much from right now all the way till we get to All-Star Grand Queendom. So yeah, just check out String Six Splash. I'm also on Twitter/X, and I'd be happy to hear from everyone and just continue talking about this awesome wrestling company.
Yeah, some great content over there. I know you've had some videos helping explain the roster. I've seen you explain, obviously, hate and what that group is all about since they kind of run Stardom now. You also just had a video about Tam and Saya and the fallout from that and everything going on, which I think we're still all kind of just figuring it out. Um, but we're here for the Cinderella today. That is why we are here. We were talking about the Cinderella, which means we have eyes on the future because that is what Stardom has their eyes on with this year's bracket. I will pull up the bracket here now. As you see, it's a beautiful, wonderful bracket. As you know, String, we talked about it many, many times in the lead up to this. We're like, oh, we will get this recording done. It's just a matter of when are they going to give us a bracket to get it done? Uh, so it took some time, but we got one. We have it, and it is now changed once again. So last year was a year of change for the Cinderella tournament. They took out the former World and Wonder Stardom champions and pretty much challengers for those belts as well, or consistent high level challengers. I guess it never really made sense because like Hazuki was still in it, but then like Natsupoi wasn't. I was like, all right, sure. But this year we have moved further away from the top of the card, and now it is more of a young star rookie breakout type tournament plus like Tomoki Inaba, um, which I just like to toss that in there. That's a multi-time champion in her company. She even reacted kind of like that. She was like, wait, hold on. Why am I here? But I think that's very funny. She is very young, so it's not too shocking. But as you can see, this is our lineup of wrestlers featuring wrestlers from Stardom, JTO, and of course CMLL. When you saw this lineup, what was your initial reaction? Because mine was, oh, that was my reaction. I was like, oh, we have changed it again. And I told everyone, because I know a lot of people were predicting this one. I told everyone Hazuki wasn't winning this year. Mostly because she's booked for Oz Academy on Sunday, and that was kind of a dead giveaway. Um, but they made sure that Azumi, who was I thought the favorite heading into it, I thought she had a great chance this year. She's not in it either. So we are really focused on the future, which I think is very exciting. It's very new, gives all these wrestlers a chance to be highlighted, and it will be a fun 2-week period where we decide a winner. So, what was your thoughts with the new setup here?
Yeah, I had a few thoughts right away and a few thoughts that I, after a day or two, kind of came up with. And I had a feeling that the size of the, I don't want to call it a roster, but the size of the bracket would be about this big because of the 3-day schedule that they set up. It does feel like they took last year's approach and doubled down on that. This is almost like a hybrid tournament of last January's rookie tournament that they did, the one night only thing, and last year's Cinderella, kind of smushed the two concepts together a little bit more. So I was pretty surprised to see the brand new rookies in this. And after thinking about it for a while, I'm not necessarily disappointed with this lineup. However, there are a couple wrestlers I think that kind of get hurt by the lineup being this way. I'm thinking of people like Momo Kogo, who seems like she starts to get momentum for a match or two, and then the momentum fades. And even someone like Waka Tsukiyama, she actually was a surprising element in the 2023 Cinderella. She has a belt now, so I'm not weeping too strongly for her. But to see her as a singles competitor, getting to branch out a little more than she gets to do on the house shows and even on the some of the pay-per-views, those kind of names, I think, I kind of wish they would have gotten a shot. And then there are certain roles in the tournament that I don't know are going to be filled. So, for instance, when someone like Saki Kashima is in a tournament, you have a major presence in terms of comedy and someone who could act as a spoiler in almost any match they're in. And there are people in here that might be able to occupy that kind of position. I'm just not sure if they will or not.
Yeah, it feels like the spoiler role that we're used to is now gone. Or not gone, but it's going to be a new wrestler, right? I think Rian's kind of a fascinating one in that, the way she wrestles, obviously, and the pin she's put together. I think that's kind of the fun of this tournament is we're going to learn a lot, like this tournament is a lot of learning. Obviously, we know the wrestlers, but we're going to see maybe who they're high on, who they're trying to push moving forward, who they kind of want to give a little bit more of a spotlight. And I think that's a lot of fun with this tournament. The beauty for Stardom is they do have so many young, exciting wrestlers ready to get a spot. My automatic thought, however, when this was put together, I don't think the challenge can happen at All Star Grand Queendom. I just, it's hard for me unless Hanan wins it or like Rina won it again. It's hard for me to get behind that because of what they're trying to go for. They're trying to go for 10,000 people in attendance. And while, yes, I know there is a career versus career match with the two most popular wrestlers in the company, you still got to build the rest of the card. And I think when it comes to the idea of Starlight Kid versus someone, you want to see those Hazukis or Azumis in there in that big match, right? So for me, that's the one thing I kind of hope from this does not happen, assuming, and this is a big part of this year, assuming the wish is still used on the Wonder of Stardom Championship, which I'm not even fully confident about anymore either. But I will treat it that way until I am told otherwise because I'm just going off the past, like it's hard to figure out what they're going to do when it's brand new. But that's the exciting part of this year's tournament. So I'll be treating it in that respect. Do you have the same method in terms of you think the wish? Because for those who don't know, with the Cinderella tournament, you earn a wish. You don't earn necessarily a Wonder of Stardom title shot. It's always been this way. It just has been used on that title for years now. But did you, when you made your bracket, which we'll reveal here soon enough, um, was it in mind of we're gonna still establish the Wonder Stardom challenger somewhere down the line, or were you more thinking maybe this wish will now be utilized in a different way because of the breakout aspect of this tournament?
That's an excellent question. Not only because of the massive show they're trying to make out of All Star Grand Queendom, they're trying to make it the biggest show they've ever done by a long shot, but also, like you said, the changing nature of this tournament. So it's a question I've really struggled with. And like most people, when they try to predict the Cinderella, you end up overthinking so many different details. So for me, I've grouped people into categories based on whether I think that Stardom thinks they are upcoming Wonder of Stardom challengers or not. And then I've grouped these other categories sort of under the assumption that because the lineup of the tournament is changing, because we're getting more either rookies or what I would call post rookies and people that have not yet been elevated in terms of their career or their status in the company, I'm starting to get this feeling that the end result of the tournament and what the winner actually sort of manifests with their wish might be something different this time around, whether it's a different title that they're going after, which a couple of these wrestlers I think would, just based on their characters, would be gunning for alternate types of titles, or if somehow, some way, this tournament still makes another left turn and gets embroiled in the Tam Nakano stuff, the Tam Nakano storyline, which people prior to March 3rd assumed would be happening. Now, I think the general assumption is that's not happening. But for me, Stardom has a way of somehow finding the end point by going completely off the road, tumbling a couple times, and then eventually kind of chaotically landing where you thought they were going all along. So a long-winded way to answer your question is I made multiple brackets of multiple wrestlers because I think there are a few strong candidates. And the person I chose as a mild spoiler is either, in my mind, going to be challenging for a belt that is not the Wonder of Stardom title, or they're somehow going to make a more story-based wish that is plot heavy and title light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's valid, and I think that's the fun of this year's tournament. Anything's on the table, and we'll see the drawing power of the tournament itself as well this upcoming weekend. You know, they're running the Yokohama Budokan for the first show, and then Oda Award for the second, or is it the other way around? I always get it confused. I think it's that way. Yeah, it's the Oda Award final, and then Yokohama Budokan first. So we'll see the drawing power of these shows. Obviously, there will be a title match on the final, as often is with Starlight Kid and Konami. So there'll be a little buffer there along with the final to help pack that show. But let's kind of get into the thick of it now. Before we kind of reveal our brackets, because obviously that's why the people are here and are thinking behind it, I do want to kind of go through each competitor. Just with a few thoughts, because I think the fascinating part about this tournament is that more than half the field isn't a crazy thought that could win this for various reasons, right? Kind of with what you were talking about. The wish is there to go story based, to go title based, to go a different title than the Wonder. And I think that's kind of the fun aspect of this year's tournament that I'm so excited to discuss. So we'll start on the very left if you're watching here on YouTube. That, of course, is one Sayaka Carrara. Sayaka Carrara, I think people have kind of propelled forward as one of the few favorites here in this year's tournament and was the heavy favorite before the loser leave Stardom match led to a career versus career match. I think some people started to believe, oh, maybe this is how we get Tam back into Stardom with Carrara. And obviously, things have very quickly changed. That is no longer, well, it is actually, she doesn't have a contract currently. So technically, it is. But with career versus career on the line, I don't think she would waste the wish on getting her a contract just so she could still lose on the final day. Now, it could be something else, which is the beauty of Cosmic Angels and Tam Nakano affecting every tournament we have in this company, even if she's not in it this time. This will be her most impressive, though. Last time she went 0-6 and won the world title. This time she's not even in it, and it still might be about her. What are your thoughts on Sayaka Carrara, someone who they are very clearly behind, and someone that I think, looking at the young field here, could be a serious contender?
Yeah, so I'm trying to look at each person with some kind of context. So the first context that I try to use to make any sense of this is figure out what did they accomplish last year with their Cinderella tournament. The first thing that comes to mind when I ask that question is that they took a fan favorite babyface wrestler and they elevated that wrestler up the card to some degree. What they also did, which I thought was very effective, is they placed this babyface in the path of relevant opponents that have some sort of like stronger or deeper meaning to their overall career to that point, or some relevance to their history, their past. So I think Sayaka occupies a pretty strong spot if we use that as our sort of pre-existing context that I'm just assuming here Stardom may want to repeat. So with Sayaka, I like that you mentioned Tam's like 0-6 desolation, because I think that's a very sort of like reminiscent place to where she is right now. And it just makes you really, really not concerned, but possibly preparing to be confused with what's gonna come next. But Sayaka, obviously, within the venues, a very popular wrestler. She's very performative, like Tam is. She is looking for the avenues to pack on a stronger story on the back of whatever match she's involved with. So I'm starting to see some of, more and more each time she shows up, the reason why Tam seems to be so connected to her. And I think her connection to Tam, which they've not only built up late last year, but are continuing to either reference as recently as Path of Thunder, of course, which was late February. That's still something that they're playing off of. And so I think that makes her a strong candidate for this tournament. Not someone you'd really expect at first glance to get eliminated immediately, but Stardom likes to play with our expectations. So you can never take too much for granted.
Next up, we have Ruaka. Ruaka got pretty far last year's tournament, making it to the semifinal against Hanan before falling short against her lifetime rival. Ruaka is a very interesting one to me. She is someone who is, for a couple of years now, kind of started to get left behind, I'd say, in terms of the way they've been building the younger core. She's been here for a long time, and yet she's watched the likes of Hanan obviously move up. She's watched the likes of Rina now move up, her own faction mate, and others. For me, Ruaka is fascinating because if we want to keep it to the Wonder of Stardom title idea, she has a pretty great connection with Starlight Kid, one that they never got to finish telling when they broke up last year at All Star Grand Queendom. And I think that makes her a very interesting case. And it's why, out of all the first round matchups, I find Carrara versus Ruaka the most interesting. I'll allow you to just give a few thoughts here on Ruaka. Some of these people won't have as many thoughts. No offense to Kira Kuragane, for example. But I find some of the fields very interesting in terms of potential matches. And worth noting, she has a pretty big connection with Hanan as well. So challenging potentially for the tag belts wouldn't be a crazy thought either.
Yeah, no doubt. So Ruaka dropped the Future of Stardom title to Hanan and then met with Hanan in the semifinal, I believe, of last year's Cinderella. So when I look at Ruaka, what I'm seeing is one of the most likely wrestlers in this tournament who's going to try to cheat to win, most likely to use some foreign objects, some weaponry, and that makes her dangerous. It makes her a potential spoiler, if we want to call that, or someone who can get a lot of heat from the crowd and put their opponent way underneath and have you rooting or really on the edge of your seat with what might unfold in the match. So it's a very dangerous competitor, especially because for her time in Hate so far, she has been to some degree overshadowed by people like Rina. And I like what you mentioned about the Starlight Kid connection, because once again, if we frame this tournament as being a wonder of Stardom, sort of like prompting or like launch pad, she's the person that really beat down Starlight Kid when Starlight Kid was excommunicated from Oedo Tai. So there is a very personal connection that they have, and it's not very pretty.
No, it is not. And I think that's always fascinating when you look at the field and try to figure out who makes sense. And you know, Ruaka wouldn't get a title shot normally, but maybe the Cinderella tournament's the way for her to finally elevate to that next level. Akira Kuragane, I don't have many thoughts on. She's a rookie, as rookie can be. I like her. I enjoy what she brings to the table, but I think the more interesting thing is that they paired her against the woman who I see similarities between, which is Rana Yagami here in the first round. So unless you have thoughts about Akira Kuragane outside of we're rooting for the rookie because she's a rookie, I will say actually one thing since we are talking about the rookies, I am very upset that Matoe Hamabe had to miss this tournament. I thought she was actually very exciting rookie, one that was kind of putting pieces together before the injury. So I hope she's doing well. Hope she gets back soon. Uh, but yeah, you could just kind of talk about this matchup and Rana at the same time. I'm not gonna hold you to
Okay,
just
fair.
talk about Akira.
Yeah. Yeah, and Matsui Hamabe, I almost suspect she was probably on the far right side of the bracket initially to the person to face Hina, but who knows? Yeah, Akira is almost unusual in that she's a rookie that seems to have a lot of confidence just right off the bat. And the match will be engaging because of that parody that they have, the striking and martial arts similarities. But Rana Yagami, uh, I I like how she's almost like how Shuri impresses me in that she's got all of these great sort of techniques, but she's also got a lot of great comedic instincts and comedic timing. So I don't expect that really to play into the tournament, but I wouldn't actually count that out. I mentioned there not being a lot of comedic relief, let's say, for this tournament. And Saki Kashima does come from the faction that Rana Yagami's in. So I will keep a watch on this. I think either one of these people could impress. So I'll just wait and see kind of how it plays out.
Yeah, I will say about Rana, she's an interesting one just based on obviously getting propelled into the 5-star last year, having to step up there, also doing the wave, catch the wave tournaments. The tournaments aren't new to her, obviously, while they're new to a lot of these other wrestlers that are around her experience level. So that's an interesting aspect here too. Next up, we have Aya Sakura, the wrestler that if I had the book, I'd be booking to win this whole thing because I love Aya Sakura and I will root for her over everyone by default. That being said, I don't have good hopes that she's winning this tournament, but I will believe because Aya Sakura gets it. I think Aya Sakura has made some incredible strides over the past year, especially since the return from injury. And I'm very excited to see her get what feels like a pretty featured matchup here in the first round against Hanako, who is obviously the same wrestler who debuted at the same time as her, and they are creating that story for the New Blood tag belts, which will go into my picks later on. I'll just tell the world that now. But yeah, if I had the book, Aya Sakura would be winning this whole thing. I don't have the book. So something tells me if anyone's going to win this, it's the other Cosmic Angel, but it's fine. If we had to pick between the two, but I will always root for Aya. I'm very excited for her tournament. What are your thoughts on Aya Sakura's?
Yeah, we should find a way to get you the book because Aya Sakura is fantastic, and it's hard to talk about her without mentioning Hanako. I actually like what they did in the press conference. Hanako is starting to bully Aya Sakura around and almost poke the bear and get something out of her because they are leading up to not only this match, but that New Blood tag title match as well. So as far as she can get in the tournament, I'll be totally happy for her. Very impressive wrestler, very dedicated, and you just can't help but root for her.
Then, of course, we have Hanako. Hanako is, I think, someone maybe we're underestimating a little bit. This is very clearly a wrestler they like a lot. I've had my thoughts on her. I don't know if she's ready for the push they want to give her yet, but but when you are getting such a push and when you bring to the table what she does, which is size, height, something different from everyone else, especially in this tournament, she's a real threat. And I think that will be the fascinating part of this first match here, especially. Um, it's funny looking at this lineup. She does feel like a heel, which is odd because obviously she's part of EXV, but the way she spoke to Aya Sakura, there's no world I'm cheering for after that. No way, Jose. What are your thoughts about Hanako heading into this tournament?
Hanako's been pushed fairly strongly, especially in tournaments. She made it to the finals of last year's rookie tournament and the finals of the Goddess Tag League. So you mentioned that some people are underestimating her. There's something in the back of my mind that's almost a worry that I'm really underestimating her here. And it just depends on a few different factors. They're absolutely playing into the component of her size advantage over everyone. And that's how she's able to just mow people down. But now that she's getting into Aya Sakura's head as well, it makes me interested in this match even more. And I'm really glad that they're doing that.
Next up, we have 17-year-old Azusa Inaba, someone who has very quickly become, I think, one of the most consistent wrestlers on each and every card. I just think her performances stand out. Her tag team with Rina has obviously been a great standout over the past year. And she, I think, is someone that, if Stardom has their way, are going to want to push in the long term. And she also serves a very interesting aspect on her side of the bracket with some clear baby faces here. She could be the foil for a number of them, representing hate, like you talked about with Araka. She was also the possibility of cheating here. But I'm excited to see what Azusa Inaba does in this tournament. A perfect world. I'll just say this now. I get Aya Sakura versus Azusa Inaba, and they just kick each other for 10 minutes. I don't care who wins. I'll just have a great time. That's kind of like the one matchup I'm hoping for out of all of them. Well, besides maybe one between two sisters. But other than that, I'm very much looking forward to what Azusa brings to the table in this year's tournament.
Yeah, the only thing I want to highlight is her positioning in this tournament bracket, which I think is really, really clever. First of all, she is on the opposite side of the tournament from her sister. So it gets you wondering about how far they can progress towards possibly meeting each other in the finals. She's also on the opposite side of Rina. So we have on the left side of the bracket two members of Hate, and either one of them could end up being sort of the more dominant threat to all the face characters. But we already know that Rina on the right side can definitely be a threatening presence and handle any of the any of the good guys. So she doesn't need any help on that side. We all are very much aware that she is a powerhouse. So I liked this sort of positioning, and it's really just a question of, because my suspicion is that both of these members of Hate probably aren't going to get into like the semifinals or really progress all the way into contention. But one of them I think definitely will. And it's just a question of which one.
Then we have Rian. Rian's, of course, a newer competitor. I do feel the need, if you're kind of jumping into Stardom, it's fun to maybe listen to this preview to learn about each of these wrestlers. If you're not watching house shows, you might not know some of this field, honestly, because they're not in big feature matches on pay-per-views or even Corkin sometimes. But Rian is a scrappy rookie. That's what I like to call her. I think she just kind of goes out there and gives it her all. And honestly, that's someone you root for, you know. Her and Azusa is a fun first round matchup. They've already played to it in the press conference. Rihanna's like, wait a minute, I'm older than you, and then chugged a beer. And Azusa was like, all right, that can't do much about that. She's 17 years old. But funny enough, it does feel like she is the underdog in this match, which I think is a lot of fun. I feel like we're going to get a upset in this first round, and Rian feels like a fun upset possibility here, which, you know, would be cool. And yeah, I'm excited to see what she does, obviously, because she's kind of a wild card almost when it comes to the younger crop of talent in this entire bracket.
We already discussed the topic of this being an unusual lineup of wrestlers. And I should have mentioned that for me, the biggest disappointment of this lineup was watching the press conference and having a lack of really, really standout moments that throw a curveball at you, make you laugh, make you go back later and rewatch those moments. Because if I think back to last year's Grand Prix press conference, last year's Goddess Tag League press conference, even the Cinderella press conference, I want to say from like 2023, I still go back and watch little spots from those the promos people are cutting. So I have to give a huge shout out to Rion for putting on probably the most memorable spot in that press conference that we just saw. And because she's one of the newest wrestlers they have, that really, really gets extra points from me. You mentioned her being scrappy and just going for it. That's absolutely true, but it's also true in any of these different segments. She does stuff with Waka Skiyama that's a little more on the comedy side, and she's just willing to oblige any creative possibility that they put in front of her. So I can't help but root for her, and I think she's definitely someone to have your eye on inside of this tournament and outside of it.
Then we have your premier first round matchup of the tournament. If one of these matches do main event the show, which I'm not 100% sure on because there is a special singles match, but if there's one that's going to main event, it's this one right here. You have the defending Cinderella winner, Hanan, looking to become the third wrestler to go back to back and win two Cinderella tournaments, that is. And she will face, of course, Tomoka Inaba in a very exciting matchup. Hanan is someone who I was rooting for 1000% last year to win the tournament, and she did. And I'll tell you now, I wouldn't be upset if she just did it again this year. I've had some good luck in who I've wanted to win the tournament in the past. I'm never usually walking away upset with who wins. It's a matter of, does it make sense? This year, I think for me with Han, it doesn't make sense, which might be the hot take, unless, don't worry, I have a point here, unless the winner is actually challenging at All Star Grand Queendom, because then Hanan is the clear, obvious choice, I think, to be that person. But the one problem I have is if Hanan wins, I feel like she should be winning the title. And I'm just going to tell you all right now, there is not a world I'm having Starlight Kid lose this title for the next like 5 months, let alone in the next 2. I want Starlight Kid to hold that title as long as she can. And maybe Hanan could be the one to take it off of her, but I'd like to delay that down the floor. Hanan's obviously become one of the best competitors in all of Stardom. I think based on this lineup, she's the highest ranked competitor. Obviously, one half of the Goddesses of Stardom champions with Saida as well. So that's another part of the reason I think you're going to want those tag belts on All Star Grand Queendom. So I'm going to keep her out of it but I'm always going to root for her. I'll never root against her. She's the ultimate babyface for a reason.
Yeah, I have like a top 3 most likely wrestlers to win this tournament, and I have Hanan just outside of that top 3 as sort of a wild card 4th option. A lot of the points you made, I share a similar opinion. I have a suspicion that they're going to try and load the All-Star Grand Queendom card, which would probably mean she's going to be in a tag match, not a white belt match. And I want to take one of your points just a little bit further about her being essentially the most seasoned of the people here, or the most esteemed. Her run last year, she really went through the ringer. She had to face the champion, or the tournament winner that preceded her in Mirai, and that was a real uphill climb. Then she had to face not only her rival Ruaka, which you mentioned, but the woman that took the Future of Stardom title from her, another major rival, Ami Sourei. She had to go through this whole gauntlet. And so to me, for her to win again this year with this level of competition, it's not the most impressive thing she could be doing. It doesn't make you feel, other than winning 2 back-to-back tournaments, which is, as you said, a very rare accomplishment and very impressive. When you consider the field she'd be doing it against, I don't think it feels quite right.
She feels like a perfect upset potential wrestler for someone. I don't know who yet. That's the beauty of this tournament, but she feels like she's here to be upset. It could be the very first round. That's the fun of this. Let's talk about Tomoka Inaba. Tomoka Inaba is very fascinating to me, specifically because her and Starlight Kid refuse to not tease a title match. They are teasing a title match so much that I stare at Tomoka. I'm like, would they give her the tournament? And I don't think it's crazy to say maybe. Tomoka is someone who I've been a big fan of for years now, and her and her sister becoming a core part of Stardom has been a true blessing, because watching them for the past couple of years before that was not very easy. And they've always been super talented. We saw Tomoka. Tomoka is the only person here that's had a World of Stardom title match, by the way. So it's even more confusing that she is in this bracket, but she is nonetheless. Um, so it wouldn't be crazy for her to win. It would be crazy for her to take Hanan out match 1. If there's going to be a draw in this tournament, which there wasn't last year, but there have been many in the past, I also wouldn't be shocked if these two went to a draw. If there was a match to go long, whether it be the 15 minutes or, whatever, it wouldn't shock me if these two, because these two feel like they're here and everyone else just feels a step below. Even someone like Rina, who I'm obviously very high on, as is most people at this stage of the game. What are your thoughts about Tomoka Inaba, especially with her continuously teasing a Wonder Storm title match with Starlight Kid?
Yeah, important to note about Hanan and Tomoka Inaba is that at the press conference, I think they might have been the only 2 wrestlers to even bring up the white belt. And it's clearly what they have their sights set on. Tomoka Inaba is just so cool. She has so much put together. She's a very complete wrestler, or at least very nearly complete, depending how much you want to nitpick. I think she's absolutely phenomenal. Any match she's going to have, especially against Hanan, I'm really looking forward to this, to see how her striking, her submission game plays off of like the judo throws and stuff like that. And she could be like a major spoiler in this tournament. I agree. I don't think it's a crazy thing to think of her possibly winning. She's not in my sort of top echelon of picks, but it just makes you wonder sometimes. You really think that it's possible, and she could absolutely fit alongside some of the previous winners in terms of deserving this win and being talented enough to let this propel her further.
Next up, we have Miyu Amasaki. I said if I had the book, I'd book Aya Sakura to win this tournament. The second option would probably be Miyu Amasaki, because I just think she's very good, and I think her movements over the past year have really shut up a lot of people that have doubted her. I know some people still doubt her, yet she continuously performs. That's 5-star Miyu Amasaki, by the way. That is someone that has delivered a 5-star match. And if Mr. Meltzer knew more about the steel cage match she was also in, she'd have two. She'd have two. So just want to put that out there. But Miyu Amasaki is someone who I legitimately think has a shot because she is someone that I think they see stardom in. Yes, pun is intended. As a member of Neo Genesis, and obviously creates a very fascinating finish if she were to win. I have battled myself making my bracket. I have battled myself because Miyu Amasaki is someone that I think can make it. And to what you were talking about earlier with the matchups that could matter, her and Rina in a potential semifinal, that matters. That is one you look at and you're like, that has a lot to it. Obviously, Miyu Amasaki beat Rina to win the Future of Stardom Championship. So that's something that I've played with in my head here. I love Miyu to make it far here. That's the fun thing about this tournament overall. I'm kind of game for anyone making a run. Like there's no one I'm rooting against here. Um, Especially out of the believable potential winners that you could see Stardom having a lot of faith in. So I'm rooting for her, and of course she's going against her former Queen's Quest stablemate, I should say, Lady C, which makes it all the more of a fascinating matchup.
I think there's a really strong argument that a Miyu Amasaki tournament pathway and win is the coolest pathway possible in this pool. And it's the one that most resembles what Hanan did last year. So if we check it out, she faces, like you said, her Queen's Quest former friend, someone she just did battle with in that Artist of Stardom title match. Very emotional match up ahead for her potentially. Then in the second round, she could possibly face Hanan, who was last year's winner. This is the exact same thing that Hanan had to go through. To become the champion of today, perhaps you have to beat the champion of yesterday. You mentioned her facing Rina. I actually could see her facing Hina in the semifinals, a person that just took the Future of Stardom title off of her. And then if she could possibly get to the finals, why don't we throw her against Hanako, the person that she fought to a draw for the Future of Stardom title, an unresolved battle? I think that story could potentially be amazing if they want to run with it. Again, it's just a question of what the heck are they going to do?
That is what we're trying to figure out. I won't have the answer by the end of this. I'm just letting
And
you all
then
know.
she
I'm
could
gonna have
challenge
a bracket.
Starlight Kid, her other friend, which is not the biggest match for the white belt, but it might be the only way we can get that match to happen to justify it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And faction versus faction member hasn't been something that the new regime has dove into much yet. But through Stardom's history, it is very constant. It's very known, and I'd like to see it potentially again. That's why I thought Starlight Kid and Azumi made a lot of sense had this tournament went the way I expected it once upon a time. But let's talk about Lady C. Lady C is coming off, I think, the best performance of her career at Korakuen Hall. She was actually kind of an odd one for me when I saw the bracket. I was like, I feel like you would have missed it like Waka missed it. I feel like you would have missed it like Momokogo missed it and Yuna Mizumori missed it, but they gave Lady C the spot. Um, Maybe she won herself a spot just by her performance alone. Or she is there to be a story piece for Miyu Amasaki, which I think is very possible here as well. What are your thoughts on Lady C heading into this year's tournament?
Yeah, it's a fantastic comparison to someone like Momokogo because she's been in that same situation. Gets a little bit of momentum, then the momentum slows, and she kind of remains in that same sort of echelon. The artist's match, she got tremendous crowd support. She did a tremendous job. And now it's a question of, okay, this momentum exists. Can it be converted into further kinetic energy for her? That is a good point that she did make it into this tournament. Momokogo did not. Yuna Mizumori did not. So is that for a pointed reason? Is that because they want to send her through pretty far into this? I'm not sure. Do you lean on the trend that has followed in her career prior, or do you look at this like a set of new possibilities? It's just so hard to say.
Then we have Rina. Rina's coming off what I still and probably will have all year long, which was my match of the year between her and Starlight Kid. Just a emotional, incredible match. Rena was going to be my pick coming into 2025. So much so I originally wrote it on my predictions, which I had done a entire video for. And then I changed it because I got scared, and I was right to get scared because she would get a Wonder of Stardom Championship match before the Cinderella tournament even happened. So that hurt that shot, but I got that prediction right because I knew she'd get a Wonder match. I just wanted it to be the tournament originally, but it's fine. Rena, I'm very excited for, as always, in this tournament. I think Rena is a future Wonder of Stardom champion, a future World of Stardom champion. I think she has everything you need to be a top star in all of pro wrestling. And she gets a pretty easy matchup in the first round against Yuri Hime. This is not one of those where I do the upset. I'll just say that. I think you should continue with Rena's momentum and have her have a pretty easy win here. If you have any thoughts about Yuri Hime as well, feel free to share them within this little talk that you have. But I'm sure I'll be mostly focused on Rena.
Yeah, sure. I'll cover their matchup real fast, just right up front, which is that I'm looking forward to it because I want to see Yuria play opposite a villainous character. We know Yuria is the underdog. That's just the most obvious thing in the world. But to see how she could play against that overwhelming villain and try to fight back and try to crawl back into the fight, maybe get a couple of those spots where she's starting to find that inner strength. I hope this will be an opportunity for her to showcase something really cool. And obviously she's been an underdog the whole time, but at this in particular, because the way Rena works against underdogs is something I find very watchable. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm going to differ from a couple of your calls just in a slight way. So let's start to look at this from the viewpoint of Stardom wanting to pack All-Star Grand Queendom, make it as big as possible. Hanan is one option for that big wonder match. But if they're just crunching numbers, trying to build the most hype, if they're just optimizing for ticket sales and all of that, I have a feeling that they would possibly want to run Starlight Kid versus Rena 2 at that match because of the way their first Wonder of Stardom title match absolutely over-delivered, overperformed, and really good luck to any of the matches to come this year, catching up to that in the race for match of the year. It delivered on every conceivable level and even some of the levels that I didn't conceive of. So I think she's a very intriguing part of this puzzle. It's also very intriguing that she's on the side of the bracket with not just one of her sisters, but both of them. And you just can't decouple these wrestlers when it comes to the intense story, the intense sort of personal connection. She's going to be one of the favorites. We talk about Hanan being just sort of like the most esteemed, but Rena is gaining ground with every passing week, it seems like. And it's going to be a big wall for people to get over whenever they're facing her. So if I had the book, I think Rena would be one of my main choices. I was very, very close to selecting her as my prediction. So wherever she goes, as long as it's sort of becoming of what she's been able to build with her character so far, and as long as the matches deliver, which is going to almost be impossible not to, I think the sky's the limit for her, and I won't be upset with her winning this tournament or wherever she ends up landing.
Yeah, I'd love if Rina won this tournament. The only thing that plays against it is, again, if she were to win this tournament, she needs to win the belt. And I wouldn't have
Right.
her fail twice in a couple months span. I think she's gaining too much steam and too much excitement around her. I could see her
Uh-huh.
kind of enter as the Stardom Dream Queendom challenger because of her performance, kind of be slotted into that year end. Let's run it back now and let's put the belt on you. Because if you told me Rena was the next Wonder of Stardom champion, I would not be shocked at all. I'd actually say that's the right choice. Just because of that performance. I think she's put in such incredible work. And she definitely is fitting out of the couple wrestlers here that could be an all-star Grand Queendom challenger. I think you're absolutely right about that. Let's get here to the last matchup. We have Hina, the new Future of Stardom champion, against Tabata of CMLL. Obviously, kind of introduced herself to everyone this past weekend. She was on the Chiba show, and then, of course, the Korakuen show. I thought she stood out pretty well. I was like, let's keep her around. Let's let her learn the ropes here. I think she offers something different, and I think that's kind of exciting. And then, of course, Tina, just won the Future of Stardom Championship. Like you said, with the idea of the three sisters all on the same side, there's a reality that Hina or Rina could face both of their sisters in this tournament.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I don't know a lot about Hina's opponent in this first round of the tournament. I saw a little bit of backstage stuff where I think she's helping Azumi learn Spanish, and Azumi's helping her learn Japanese a little bit. So that's cool. It's cool to have outside variables enter into Stardom because it really does mix things up and get you wondering. If I'm correct that this is actually the spot that Matoi Hamabe was going to occupy, then I think Hina's plot armor as like a recent champion, recently crowned champion, is pretty much intact. So I expect Hina to advance. And like you said, it's just a question of what are they going to do with the three sisters. I really can't wait to find out.
Now, before we get to your bracket and your breakdown of how we got there, I'll just add that this upcoming Saturday, where the tournament will kick off, here are the other matches on the card since this is an official preview. You'll have Yuvia, Meisara, Kogama, Wakasukiyama, and Fukigen Death in a 5-way high speed type of battle. Should be a lot of fun. 3-way tag team match Saida and Azuki versus Seriano, Yuna Mizumori, and Azumi and Suzuki. That should be a good one. Mayu Itani teams up with Momo Kogo against Shuri and Saki Kashima after the Saki Kashima 35-second win at Korakuen Hall. Sure feels like they will be the next challengers for the tag belts. Mina Shirakawa returns to action. She'll team with Maika to face Natsuko Tora and Tekla as we continue to tell those stories that we've been telling for so long. For those who may not remember or didn't listen to the full 5-star or haven't got the chance to yet, we did bring it up over on that show that Tekla was the one that attacked Mina at All-Star Grand Kingdom last year to join Oedo Tai. So this has been going on forever. So why not we keep it going? And then, of course, the special tag team match. It will be Starlight Kid teaming with some freelancer named Tam Nakano. They'll face Saya Kamatani and Konami, which I wouldn't be shocked main events this show if they don't want a tournament match to main event. So just wanted to go through those, but it's bracket time, which means it's time to reveal your bracket. I'm going to give you the floor and talk us through it. Then I'll give my thoughts on what you put together, maybe tell you you're crazy, maybe not, and we'll go from there. So I will let you take the floor, and then people will learn who your winner is right now.
Alrighty. Well, here's my bracket, everyone. Hope it looks interesting to you. Hope you'll like it. I broke this down into sort of a top 3 potential winners of the tournament. Again, oscillating back and forth. Is this going to be about the white belt? Is this going to be about a different belt? the future of Stardom, the artists of Stardom, the goddess of Stardom? Or is this, like many things end up being, is this going to be ultimately about Tam Nakano in some roundabout way? I don't have an answer for that. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just agreeing with your idea of Tam's involved. Sorry, continue.
But against my own sort of personal wishes for Rina to be the 2025 Cinderella, something is telling me that Sayaka Kurata of Cosmic Angels is the chosen one in this tournament. She gave probably the longest promo at the press conference. She's got a lot going on with her character right now, a lot of things to hash out. But I think Stardom also has a lot of things to figure out in terms of where they want this tournament to position people. So I have a list of different goals that I think Stardom might be interested in. The first of which being, what are they going to do with this Tam Nakano storyline? If we get to a point where Tam Nakano does in fact retire from Stardom, I just can't help but believe that Tam would want to leave something behind for all of us to remember her by, where it's like, man, it's sad that Tam retired, but look what she still was able to accomplish. She made Sayaka Kurata the wrestler who she is. She mentored Sayaka, and Sayaka is the Cinderella. That seems very Tam-like to me. I also mentioned, the things that Hanan went through last year to become the Cinderella winner. And part of that was just elevating someone that we all recognized as a babyface, as someone the crowd was behind, someone who had a bright future, but just getting them up the card and getting them to start to realize their potential. I think that might be what they're doing with Sayaka. It's a little odd because she has not yet won like the Future of Stardom belt. She hasn't won any belt. She has challenged for the artist belts. So she's a little behind in that sense. But I don't necessarily think this is going to be a way to catapult someone towards the white belt, but just to catapult them further up the card. And I'll come back to that in just a moment. The other thing is that I think this tournament path is also about Rina in a weird way. We just started talking about Rina challenging again. Will she win the next time that she is standing across from the white belt champion? When will that happen? And, does she deserve that? And I think that this potential falling short in the Cinderella, even potentially becoming the runner-up in the tournament, will highlight the chase that she is undergoing, her deep yearning to win this belt, not only for herself, but for others, obviously, as well. And part of telling that story might be the fact that she couldn't even make it to the end of this tournament. She couldn't even get over the finish line. And what will she do from there? How will she react to this? How will this make her feel about the journey she's on? And then lastly, once again, going back to the potential of Tam retiring. So, there are failure points to my prediction here. There are things that might not end up happening that will make some of this logic fall off of a cliff. But if Tam is retiring, this is a point I really haven't heard anybody bring up yet. But, we need to ask, what is going to happen to Cosmic Angels, the faction? They're at risk of losing their leader, or you could almost argue they already have in a strange way. So that could lead to people like Saori Ano moving further along, becoming maybe someone in that red belt picture, maybe even Natsupoi being someone in that red belt picture, though I do kind of suspect she's got another white belt challenge in her. As Yuna Mizumori is getting to that level of becoming maybe a high-speed champion one day, this could be an opportunity to get Sayaka Kurata from just being a post-rookie with no belts to something that will round out their faction roster a little more. So just to wrap this, I'm going to go through Sayaka's pathway and a little bit of what Rina's pathway would look like opposite. And also I need to answer, why did I pick these two as being finalists? And the main reason is because I watched the Karakuin Hall show on March 3rd, where Rina pinned Sayaka Kurata in a Cosmic Angels versus Hate match. She then shoved Daichi out of the ring, grabbed a chair, started brutalizing Natsupoi. Hate started brutalizing Cosmic Angels. And towards the end of all of that, Rina and Sayaka Kurara had a bit of a stare down. And that to me was lighting the fuse that is going to travel along this pathway and detonate potentially at the finals of this tournament. So Sayaka Kurara in the first round, going to be a huge babyface underdog against Ruaka. All kinds of cheating potentially could happen. If she can overcome that, she has the chance maybe to face Rana Yagami. Rana Yagami is somebody that fought Sayaka Kurara to a time limit draw last December. And it's somebody that Sayaka seems to have this strong like hope of beating one day. And this might be her chance to actually realize that goal. If she can get past Rana, there is a really, really huge match in my eyes, the semifinal of the Cinderella, that could take place between Sayaka and Aya Sakura, who is in some ways a sister, or I don't know how you want to look at this, a contemporary of Sayaka. They have a lot of similarities. Aya Sakura, also of Cosmic Angels. I don't think they've really definitively faced each other in a match that had a clear conclusion. They probably also fought to a time limit draw way back in the day. So there aren't a lot of opportunities for them to do battle. And I think this would be just an absolute, really satisfying opportunity for that to happen, which might put her opposite Rina in the finals. Now, just to quickly go over Rina's path, you already called it. I don't see Rina losing to Yuria. That will give Rina an opportunity potentially not only to face her sister Hina, who most notably faced her for the Future of Stardom title last August, but she might be able to progress further facing her big sister Hanan. And this is a big deal because Rina has pinned Hanan in a tag match, but to have them one-on-one with a lot on the line, and Hanan being the former Cinderella coming from last year, sort of defending her own honor, I think that's potentially very, very huge. So if you just picture that semifinal, on one side Sayaka Kurara, on the other side Aya Sakura, and then on the right side of the bracket, Hanan versus Rina. I think that's going to sell a bunch of tickets just on the strength of those four names. And then I think maybe they subvert our expectations in the final. Rina being a lot more established at this point than Sayaka, and being the person that defeated last year's Cinderella, having a lot of momentum, having a lot of career momentum, just really being on top of everything right now. This would be the biggest challenge for Sayaka ever. And if Stardom does want to accomplish the goals that I have set forth, this would be the biggest win for her, and the chance for her to make a wish that really escapes me. I don't know if it'll have to do with Tam. I don't know if it'll be her challenging for the Future of Stardom belt again, but I just can't shake the notion that the lineup of this tournament, the timing of it with Tam's storyline, the timing of it with Sayaka getting over that temptation of hate and all of that, having the crowd even more on her side now. This could be the time to make her the Cinderella a little earlier in her career than a lot of people before her, but they might just go for it.
The good news for you here is that I have picked against you, which means you're more likely to be right than I am. So that's a good start. I think this is a great thought out tournament, or bracket, I should say. One that, knowing mine and knowing the few I've gone through, this is kind of one I made mentally. I think Sayaka Kurara, like I said earlier, was kind of the favorite with the Tam stuff going on. Then maybe not. But I look at this lineup and I feel like she should still be heavily considered from fans. She's clearly someone they're high on, someone Tam's high on, and someone that I wouldn't be shocked if got a great run here in this tournament. I think with Sayaka Kurara, the fascinating aspect would be that wish that I'm happy you just said, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. That's the part that you guys can figure out. I'm here to predict the winner, and that is it. And that's the correct way to go. I have a pitch for you though.
Okay. Can I make one last point that I keep forgetting to make, which is about Tam Nakano? We did talk about the Grand Prix situations she was in. As chaotic as it's been and as weird as it's been, and maybe I'm just having like a hallucination fever dream. I feel like I'm starting to track certain things, but I don't know if I really am or not. So you were actually a really good predictor of this long before the Grand Prix stuff was really kicking off, in that you saw the vision of Tam Nakano having this Natsuko Tora villain figure. I think you predicted Natsuko Tora winning the red belt at some point because you saw this long-term story that could play out with Tam having to climb against all odds and face Natsuko as being the main sort of end boss in her journey, at least as far as last year went. So much stuff happened that threw us off of that scent, threw us off of that trail. Tam losing all of those matches in a row, seemingly, not being able to stand on both legs. But in a strange way, they found their way back to it, even though I don't think they did it in the most satisfying way. And they did something a little similar with Tam ultimately facing off against Micah. We go back to February of last year when Micah was champion, and we all got the sense that, okay, somehow Tam and Micah are going to clash, and it's going to settle, I say this in quotes. I can't think of a better way of saying it. The true red belt champion, because Tam had to relinquish the belt. Micah got the belt under less than normal circumstances. And then we got thrown off that trail, right? Because Micah dropped the belt, but they still weaved their way back to it again under such odd sort of booking choices. So long story, a little bit shorter. We got this whole thing with this, like, we thought Tam was going to get wished back into stardom, or that, Sayaka is somehow going to save Tam and be her salvation because, no one else can do it, but it's that sort of storybook type of scenario. And we've been thrown off of that scent again because Tam's already kind of lost everything. So I just, for some strange reason, I'm not giving up this notion that they're going to somehow just careen the whole bus back onto this Sayaka somehow saves Tam anyway, even though it doesn't make sense anymore. So I just wanted to say that because I finally remembered to say it.
I think it's always fair to assume that something, some way, somehow is going to involve Tam Nakano until that woman is actually retired. Until she is no longer wrestling, I'm going to assume everything has to do with her based on the past year. So what I wanted to throw at you, because I've been thinking about this when I was putting together a Carrara possible winning bracket, and we talk about what would she do with that wish. I think there's a incredible story there. If we're not gonna waste the wish quickly, and when I say waste, I mean we're gonna save it. Because if you remember 2 years ago, Mirai did the same thing. She saved her wish. She didn't use it till after Queendom. Actually months after. Like, she didn't even face Mina. Like, she faced Tam. See? Everything's Tam connected. It's crazy how that works. But if we were to save the wish, there's an incredible story of a young cosmic angel, of course, Sayaka Kurara, who has in the past pinned the reigning, defending World of Stardom champion. And if that same reigning, defending World of Stardom champion were to retire Tam Nakano, could Sayaka Kurara, with a wish in her back pocket, be driven to anger to challenge out of nowhere Saya Kamatani for the World of Stardom Championship? It's bold, it's crazy, but it might just work. And I think that's kind of the fun of that aspect. It's something that I just kind of want to throw out there because, you're sitting here and you're like, I don't know what exactly she'd do with the wish. It's still Tam connected, and I think that's what matters. It could be a Corkin match, it could be something. For me, sitting here while the Wonder's in the picture, hell, I think a tag match with Tam, tag title match, wouldn't be crazy. I think something else with Tam wouldn't be crazy. I think if Sayaka was to win, it would be very fun to do her and Saya Kamatani for the world title in the biggest underdog title match we may ever see in this company. But that's the beauty of it, because imagine the Korakuen crowd that is always behind Sayaka crowd, because it has to happen to Korakuen. Those are the rules. Always behind her, and they will lose their mind the moment she hits that spear in that match. A sign of hope, a sign of just a glimpse, right? We're not getting a lot of hope in that match, I'm sure, but just a glimpse. And I think honestly, I wouldn't hate at all if they ran with that idea. Obviously, I'm not having her beat Sayaka Otani, but out of anger that you retired Tam on me, I'm gonna get back at you and fail. But I just want to throw that out there because I think it's a fun idea if Sayaka Kara does get that wish.
Yeah, it's one of the things about this time in Stardom is that all bets do seem to truly be off. And you can't close the door 100% on just about anything. It's really great, and it is a fun storyline. It's great that they've been able to continue and stretch out and pull more things out of this storyline. What I like about your idea is that we've gone through this character arc for Sayaka Kurara, and I'm just so um, I'm so happy that she did this. She was the first and one of the only people to step forward when Saya Kamitani turned heel and express this yearning to try and bring Saya Kamitani back from the brink, to declare that they still see the humanity in her, the good person in her. And Sayaka has been at the vanguard of that mission to try and save Saya, to redeem her. So if Saya retires Tam, this could be the end of that mission, where Sayaka realizes that you can't redeem someone who's irredeemable. So I think that would be kind of a strong story twist or development to go with. Okay, so I actually think it's probably more likely that Sayaka would do the Tam tag match that you're talking about. And I think really, if we're going to pick one of the Cosmic Angels to go for the red belt next, I really just can't shake my theory that Saori Ano is going to try and do it. They haven't really leaned on it really heavily, but every once in a while, Saori will either say something to Saya, or they'll have a little short, brief duel in a match together, or something after a match where they'll just share a look. So as long as Tam isn't retiring and making every angle involve Cosmic Angels, I would lean more towards Saori being next up. For the same reasons you mentioned, though. You retired my friend, the person that brought me into Cosmic Angels, and now I've got to deal with you, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think Saori is long overdue for a World of Stardom title match, honestly. Just a reminder, dating back to July, we have had the same few people involved in the World of Stardom title picture. Maika, Natsukatora, Saya Kamatani, Tam Nakano, and Suzuki. That's it. That has been the title picture since then. So it would be nice to get new blood in there, whether that is literally a new blood wrestler in Sayaka Kurara, or Seriano, or Natsupoi, a different Cosmic Angel, which I think is very probable. I'd say I'd have one of them challenge after, presuming Tam loses, of course. But I don't think Sayaka Kamatani is retiring, so there you go. Are you ready for my bracket?
Definitely. I am so ready for this. I don't think the viewers or the listeners are, but that's another story.
No. I am here to be the one that gets yelled at, but I'm also here to be the one that makes things not happen. So for those who may look at my bracket and think, what are you thinking? Just know that a few years ago, I picked Starlight Kid to win, and she was eliminated in the first round. So I am not here to be right. I am here to sway people a different way so the person I want to win actually does win. I did it last year when I picked Hazuki. I wanted Hanan to win, but I was willing to sacrifice Hazuki's shot for Hanan to win. And this year, I am going to do the same. So everyone buckle up. Here we go. Time for you all to react. My bracket has Ruaka winning the Cinderella tournament. And I have reasoning. So before it's like, what? 'Cause I know that will be everyone initially. I do have reasoning for why Ruaka makes a lot of sense. And I kind of hinted at it earlier. I think Ruaka is a fascinating option for this year's Cinderella tournament. One, because, as I said earlier, she's kind of been forgotten. You know, we've seen Hanan go to a higher level than her. We've seen Rina, her stablemate, go higher than her. We've seen others in that title picture. Obviously, Starlight Kid, someone who she is tagged with, someone that she was had a friendship with, someone that she's teamed up with for tag titles and artist belts. This is someone that has watched everyone move on, and yet last year we saw our first glimpse of hope, maybe, for Ruaka when they were willing to put her all the way to the semifinal of the tournament. And while it was to tell Hanan's story, I did think it told an interesting story for Ruaka. Fast forward to this year. We never got to do the payoff of Starlight Kid and Ruaka. When Starlight Kid got kicked out of Oedo Tai at All Star Grand Queendom 2024, who was the person to do the attack? That was, of course, Ruaka. And what happened from there? Ruaka got injured. They never could follow up on it. They kind of had to just pivot away. They had to start the story of, oh, where is Starlight Kid going to end up next, right? That was the story. Again, Tam adjacent. But that was the story instead. And I look at that, and I look at what Starlight Kid has been doing in this Wonder Stardom title reign so far. A title defense against Rina, member of Hate. Upcoming on the 15th, a title match against Konami, a member of Hate. It's always good to remind the folks at home, what faction does this booking team love more than any other? And that is Hate. They love Hate. Stardom is Hate. The faction. Of course. And I think Ruaka is a very fascinating pick of the three Hate members because, like I said, eventually she's going to have her time. We watched Natsuko Tora become World of Stardom champion in 2024. I don't think it's that crazy to think that Ruaka can be a challenger for the Wonder of Stardom champion in 2025. And winning the Cinderella feels like the way to go. So as you can see here in my bracket, it's almost too good for me to pass up the idea of Ruaka versus Hanan in the final. On one side, you are telling the story of Hanan going for the two-peat in the finals, and Ruaka overcomes that and wins. She beats her this time, and she wins the tournament. She beats her longtime rival, the same woman who beat her for the Future of Stardom Championship as well, once upon a time. These two have always been connected. It would feel wrong, honestly, if they were ever to give Ruaka her moment, that she wouldn't face Hanan. It just feels like that has to be the way. So I continue on here looking at Ruaka's story through this tournament. It's not as clear, but there is something very interesting about her taking out both cosmic angels on the way by. And of course, Rana Yakami. I think the fascinating thing for Ruaka is you look at the left side of the bracket and it almost kind of looks easy for her based on her experience compared to everyone else. She is by far the most experienced wrestler on her side of the bracket, which gives a beautiful pathway for her to get to that final if they want to go with her. Now, do I sit here with fear that she gets disqualified on night number one and none of this matters? Yeah, I sure do. I would be lying if I said I didn't fear that she just gets disqualified because that's what she does. But Ruaka kind of has a tell of when she's going to do things. She tries a little bit harder. She wrestles a little bit harder. She's been wrestling really hard as of late. Like some standout performances, I think, whether it be house shows, um, outside of Stardom, she's been dipping her toe into Seedling, New Blood. She's just kind of been showing out. And to me, it's notable. To me, it's something of, does Raka know something we don't? My first thought was, oh, maybe she's just getting a Goddesses of Stardom title match. Her and Tora, her and Rina against Wingori. I could see that any day of the week. That'd be great. Or maybe it's more. Maybe it's winning the Cinderella and being a true heel winning the group. Kind of almost ruining the pageantry by decimating the idea of the Cinderella, which I find exciting, right? Every time we do the Cinderella tournament, we have the big main event, which will be the Wonder of Stardom title match after the Cinderella final had already happened. Why not, instead of, wait for the big presentation with the gown and everything, why don't we just have Ruaka beat the snot out of Starlight Kid after? And she can do her own version of her Cinderella celebration. I like that. That excites me because my thought process as well, if she's challenging for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. And my other thought process is I look at the Okinawa shows. This is a big deal that they're doing. They're offering travel packages. They are offering all these things. Both shows are going to be on pay-per-view. I've checked the venue. It looks like they're like 2,000 person venues. Like, this is a big venue. Why not put 1 week after she beats the snot out of Starlight Kid after her big defense against Konami, which, she'd be out there for. Well, maybe not if she wins the tournament, but you get my point. Why not make it the main event of night 2 of Okinawa? Because the World of Stardom title is out of the way. That is not being touched until Queendom. So I think Starlight Kid is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting in the meantime. Why not Ruaka versus Starlight Kid? You tell that story almost 1 year later. They split it from each other. They used to be such good friends, and you have her challenge. Obviously lose. I'm not having Ruaka win the Wonder of Stardom title, but I'm having her finally get that match. Like I said, we saw Natsuko Tora win the world title in 2024. It's not that crazy. And I like the idea that this company really likes to push the heels to put over the baby faces in the end. And I think while Tam Nakano is going to have the ultimate false hope loss in her big challenge, I think Starlight Kid, the other ultimate babyface, overcoming 3 members of Hate in a row is something very interesting. And then it kind of opens the door for a potential challenge from really whoever you want at All-Star Grand Queendom. Hell, maybe you want to kind of elevate it and continue the hate, and you put her against her former tag team partner, Momo Watanabe, at All-Star Grand Queendom. I think that's always a possibility as well. But I'm honestly focused on Okinawa with this title match. So just to kind of go through the rest of the bracket here, I think Aya Sakura would be an ideal option to face Ruaka if we were to get that far. I think she's also an ideal option to face Sayaka Kurara for obvious reasons and their history, but as would Azusa and Naba. And then I look at the other side of the bracket. I had a really tough time picking between Hanan and Miyu Amasaki because I do think Miyu Amasaki is a finalist contender. But I just felt the story. This company likes to put the story in the main event of a tournament, right? We saw it last year, Hananami Sarai. We saw it last year with the 5-star Maika and Saya Kamatani. Why not we do it Ruaka and Hanan? Rina and Hanan, I feel like, is a great marquee semifinal for that show as well. That kind of sells it. That people will be very into. And just on the right, as you can see here, I actually had newcomer Tabata beat Hina. And the reason for that is I checked. Tabata is under 3 years of experience. Feels like a great way to get a quick future Stardom title match, whether it be on New Blood or an Okinawa show. I feel like that's a fun way to get in a title defense for Hina in a real upset. But yeah, with Ruaka, listen, I knew when I put this together, people aren't going to be happy. That's okay. I'm here to probably not be right because I've never been right with the Cinderella tournament. It's the one thing I can't figure out, and I'm never going to figure it out. And that's okay. That's the fun of it. But I have Ruaka, Hanan as your finals, and then I have Ruaka as your winner. Kind of get a little chuckle out of it because I still can't believe that I did it, but we are here. I am here for you people to maybe get a good laugh out of it. But yeah, I'll let you give your thoughts on that one.
That was a shockingly high number of compelling arguments on behalf of Ruaka. I think her strongest case is sort of baked into the connection with Starlight Kid. And so like you were indicating, if this tournament is going to be like it traditionally has been and be about the white belt, Ruaka's got such an amount of different things going for her. She was the final tag team partner of Starlight Kid in Starlight Kid's very last match in Oedo Tai. And that was an unfinished story that could easily come back this year. I didn't know about sort of the scheduling and stuff with Stardom, but if we even just look at thematically Starlight Kid's all white heroic presentation coming with white roses, if they line up the different heels and villains in Stardom to try and take her down, that almost writes itself. She's kind of almost maybe got like a Kill Bill list of people she's going after because she was kicked out of Oedo Tai. You know, I mean, Konami wasn't there at the time, I don't think, but it still works. And Momo Watanabe works within this sort of lineage of contenders. Starlight Kid could be poised for a very like long-standing title reign, so they could occupy it with people like Ruaka very, very easily. The other thing that also serves to your point about like this shattering of the conventions of the Cinderella tournament is that we saw a Hate exclusive award show to give all the members of Hate their own Stardom themed awards. They are making their own rules. They are turning these traditional conventions of Stardom on their head. So really the question between your prediction and mine is, are we going to see Ruaka not in the Cinderella dress, you know, going after Starlight Kid, turning the whole thing sort of like midnight black? Or are we going to see Sayaka Kurara not wearing the Cinderella dress, coming out in like a business suit with a new contract drawn up to sit down with Tam and President Okada and debate the details of Tam's contract signing? But you know what? This is a very convincing argument, which I can't believe I'm even saying right now.
Thank you. Thank you. I also want to say this. I think there is also something for Waka that would be interesting here. You know, we've talked about the idea of cheating, and that's kind of expected with Hate. But you look at her side of the bracket. Why not have her just dominate the people she's facing? Because then you're kind of establishing her as, oh, maybe we should pay attention to Ruaka. Maybe she has flipped a switch. You know, instead of cheating to beat Sayaka Karara and Rana Yagami and Aya Sakura, which I have here, why doesn't she just dominantly destroy them and set herself up as kind of this rookie slash newbie slash breakout wrestler destroyer before you get to the final and she's back against the wall against her longtime rival? Mike would have to bring out that cheating a little bit, but I like the idea. The more I talk about it, the more kind of excited I get for the idea, which honestly, when I put it together, I was like, I don't know. Um, but I like the idea of Starlight Kid and Ruaka. I think based on what we've seen Starlight Kid do so far with this title reign, I could see her and Ruaka have a really compelling match that maybe no one expected them to have at one point. And I think that's kind of exciting, kind of fun. And again, I am making my bracket with the idea that the wonder is still going to be the wish. If we are going to treat it more as a wish, Carrara comes into it. Some of the younger talent overall come into the possibilities a bit more for me. Um, but I like to be different. I like to have fun, and I'm usually wrong, so you won't have to worry about too much. If this is the one time I get it right, that would be very funny. I won't lie to you. That'd be very funny. Um, but yeah, my pick is Ruaka to win the 2025 Cinderella tournament. Yours is, of course, Sayaka Karada, and we'll probably both be wrong. That's probably the
Probably.
safe bet. Which honestly, if I'm wrong, I hope it's Rina. I hope it's Miyu Amasaki. I hope it's Hanan Pete. I obviously hope it's Aya Sakura. Um, but I think
Yeah,
that Tomoka Inaba, there's so many fun options.
yeah, that's kind of my top four is the people you already mentioned of likelihood for me. Ruaka's got a strong case. I will grant you that. But I'm
I've given
thinking
her hope.
Sayaka Kurata, Rina, and Miyu Amasaki are the three that I could most envision with an outside chance of Hanan getting her second win. The thing I think is funny about both of our predictions is what's probably going to happen, or well, one thing is certain. One of our predictions is going to be out the window like immediately. And then we might
Yeah,
have to wait the entire tournament to figure out if the other person's is out the window or not. So I think that's
I know.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's like I said, I had a bracket where I wasn't even considering Ruaka, had Carrara winning. Then I was like looking at the rest of the left side. I was like, no one else makes sense to beat her. And that kind of goes for Ruaka. It feels like whoever wins that match is representing on that side. But it's why I brought up earlier, maybe give a little more respect to Hanako. Maybe put some more consideration into that one. I think if I was to go on the left side, who has the most possibility of winning, it would be Carrara, Ruaka, and Hanako, truthfully. Like just from the standing in the company. I don't think they're gonna go with Azusa. I definitely don't think they're gonna go with Rian. I wish they would go with Aya Sakura, but I don't think that's the story they're telling. Kira Kuragana has no shot. Rana Yagami, maybe I should give a little more respect to, but I just don't see it yet. So it's kind of those three that, at least for the left side of the bracket. And listen, I'll say this: if I'm wrong, I hope you're right, because if I'm wrong, I'm gonna guess I'm wrong very early. Like I don't think this is gonna be a sense of Rock is getting through but not making it to the final. If she's not getting through the first match, like, I mean, if she's not getting to the final, she's losing the first match. Like, that is my thought process there because, there's a reality where if they want Hanan to win or Naba to win, maybe it's Ruaka because she's the heel, or Amasaki, of course. Or on the other side, if they want Rina to win, it feels like Sayaka Kara is the best way to tell that story as well.
Yeah, my only hesitation with Hanako, because we know she's a monster in tournaments, is I don't know where she goes with the win. She's already got the new blood tag belts. So I'm not sure. She just challenged for the future belt and it was
Yeah.
razor thin, right? She fought to a
Seems like a
draw.
lot for her
Yeah, that's what
at
I'm
once.
thinking. That's what I'm thinking. So that to me, and then the other thing, we kind of touched on this, but not fully. We both have Aya Sakura making it past her, and I think that's because they're heating up Aya Sakura not only for that New Blood Tag Challenge at New Blood 20, but she's
Mhm.
also got a Sendai Girls Challenge on the horizon. I
Yes.
think that's on March 19th.
Yes.
So I think those factors are kind of working against Hanako, who otherwise would be really, really strongly positioned here.
Yeah. I also think, for your side, I could see Sayaka face Azusa Naba if they wanna have her face maybe double, uh, hate on the way to a win as well. That's something worth considering. But that's the fun of the Cinderella tournament. I made all these picks. I had zero confidence in the majority of them, and that's the beauty of it. There's a good chance that both Rock and Han are eliminated in the very first round, and my finals are done on day one. And that's what I expect because that has happened to me before. Why stop now? But thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun. This was a great time. I love Cinderella season, no matter how different it gets. I think everyone has a fun time with the tournament and making their own bracket. So thank you for joining me. Let's get those plugs in one more time here before we wrap up.
Sure thing. Well, I appreciate you having me on to talk about this. Definitely opening up my thought process about, not writing anybody off, because that is the Cinderella tournament. You can't just think of the most obvious things. One of the biggest hits to my prediction is that I don't have a lot of upsets. I don't have those crazy, I didn't picture this person being eliminated early kind of things. So that's probably going to come back and bite me. And at any rate, yeah, you can check me out. String Six Splash, the word string, the number six, the word splash. You can check out the series Red Belt Radio. Both of those things are found on YouTube. You can also check me out at Twitter/X at String Six Splash. And yeah, thanks again. This was pretty cool.
It's always great talking to you. If this is the first time you're watching the channel, maybe you're looking for Cinderella picks yourself and you landed here. First of all, thank you for doing so. Welcome. But I will throw my few plugs in every Friday on the YouTube channel, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. 5-Star Joshi Show is up. I cover Stardom, Marigold, TJPW, Sendai Girls. You get the point. Everything that has to do with Joshi. And each and every Friday, because I'm not original, why not just drop all the content you need to do on a Friday? The Joshi Informer newsletter keeps you informed on everything in Joshi. The JoshiInformer.substack.com. Subscribe. You'll never miss it. Very proud of what that has become very quickly. We've only been doing it for a month, but I'm very proud of getting to continuously put stardom information, Joshi information overall out there each and every week for people to follow. I think the beauty of Joshi right now is how exciting it is, how really hot it is in terms of popularity and crowds just throughout the entire scene. Obviously, with Stardom at the top, it's always good when the top dog is on fire because it really trickles down to the rest as well, especially with Stardom's involvement seemingly everywhere on these cards and within these companies. So, thank you everyone for listening. For String Six Splash, I'm Scott Edwards. This was the official Cinderella Tournament preview for both the 5-Star Joshi Show and, of course, my YouTube channel. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Enjoy the tournament, folks. I'm sure one of us will at least be wrong. It's going to be me. But thank you, everybody, and we'll be back next time with another special video. See ya.